Oh,
All right, man.
All right, man.
Episode 20, the big 2-0.
This
Crack
is
'em.
episode 20.
It's episode 20. Crack them if you got them.
I had not realized that until you just said it.
Yeah.
Crack them if you
So,
got them. That looks
so
like a show me the can.
pretty cool.
Nope,
little
not what I thought it was.
wolf
What
on
is
there. I
that?
don't know if you've probably never had this. I've never heard of this either. It's actually a collaboration between two breweries because I knew you weren't going to be able to have a beer on the podcast again this week. So I thought I'd shout out a couple breweries. But this is called the Broom, is what the beer is called. It's a double dry hopped, hazy. It's a hazy double IPA, 7.5%. Give it a taste here. I'll give you the untapped score real quick.
Where is it out of?
So I'll get to that in a second.
Oh,
Untapped
okay.
score is 3.87. A little 3.87 score for you. So it's two breweries, like I said. The first one is Illuminated Brew Works, which is out of the city. And Illuminated Brew Works, here's their spiel, because I've never been there either. It looks like they might be closed until the 14th of July when they'll reopen. But they're a Chicago-based brewery producing beer for interesting times, from big hazy IPAs to yeast-driven urban farmhouses, adjunct rich stouts, and experimentally driven sours and fruit beers. Our offerings rotate seasonally to celebrate the annual cycle. So they're doing different stuff all the time. And they do a lot of collaborations, it looks like, with other local breweries like Dry Hop over in Lakeview. I know you and I have been there together. That place is really cool as well. We'll probably talk about them in a future podcast. And the other brewery, it's Illuminated Brew Works in collaboration with Temperance Beer Company, which is out of Evanston. And Temperance has a little tap room up in Evanston. And something that I found on their website that I thought was really cool, and something I haven't seen at other breweries, is that the third Saturday of every month they do beer yoga. I didn't even know this was a thing, and maybe out in California you've heard of this before.
Yeah.
After so basically you go, and after the yoga you just try a few of their beers and hang out with people after the class. It is what it sounds like. But it's cool that all their proceeds from these yoga classes go to local charities. So I think that they've put these on pause for a little bit because of the pandemic, and the next one, it says, is September 18th. So you can book through their website. Again, that's Temperance Beer Company. No free ads.
No free ads.
But it is for charity.
Oh, it's for a good cause then?
It's for a good cause.
Well, there you go.
Local charities.
Okay. All right. Support the kids.
Support the kids. Yeah. So
interesting.
This is pretty good. Yeah. I mean, it says this is the first hazy double that they've brewed. And I think it turned out pretty well. I find collaborations usually turn out pretty good though. And you got more eyes on it.
Yeah, I know. I was looking, although I don't have one. I know a lot of the breweries in Ocean Beach just created like a double IPA. I think it was last weekend. They had like their first festival in the neighborhood to kick off the summer kind of schedule of events, calendar of events for the summer. And all of the local ones went and made a beer together. Should try to get my hands on it for the next one. Once I'm out of here. I'm on a college campus, it's a dry campus, so I'm not allowed to be drinking right now.
Very unfortunate when you do a beer and sports podcast.
Yeah,
to not be able to drink,
but we'll work through it. Something that the Cubs need to be doing right now, trying to work through a 10 game losing streak.
Dude, I cannot believe this. Right after they so yeah, since we last talked, they haven't won a game.
No, they haven't won a game since June 24th.
And that was the combined no-hitter against LA, right?
Yeah.
So did you go to the game after that? Were you the first game of this 10-game losing streak?
No, I think I went to the 2 games after it. I went to the game, I could check, but I went to the game that the Dodgers hit a walk-off homer against them. I was standing up, we were cheering. It was the 9th inning. Bellinger just came in the 8th inning. Defensive substitution, knowing that he'd be batting the next inning, and then he did, and he hit a home run, and they won the game. So I went to the game on Saturday, and they lost on Friday, and they threw the no-hitter on Thursday. Yeah, so I was 2 games after.
So the second game of this 10-game losing streak. I'm still
I was
put a little partial blame on you.
Yeah, I was there at the beginning. I was there before it was cool to be in a 10-game losing streak. But boy,
Yeah,
yeah, and it's not even like some of these scores during this losing streak and the leads being blown. I mean, a 7-1,
7-0 to the
14,
Brewers.
that 14-4, 15-7. Like the Brewers put up. I
Yeah,
mean,
they
that's
absolutely torched
insane.
us the
Yeah,
whole
it's like a
series.
32 to like 10 run differential. We got swept by the Brewers, swept by the Reds, and then yesterday I had Zach Davies on my fantasy team, and I'm like trying to catch and take a look at it, and I'm like, oh, he's pitching pretty well. Like fifth inning, I believe he went into, maybe gave up 2 or something like that. And I didn't check my phone for the rest of the game. I was busy, and I got a bunch of notifications. I look at my phone and I look at the score, and 13-3, 13 to
Unbelievable.
3.
Unbelievable, man.
Looks like I think it was like the 8th inning we gave up 6. 9th inning gave up 3 more. That's 9 runs in the last 2 innings. Usually not going to win a game that way, Cubs.
Yeah.
David Ross, I think, got ejected out of that game, right?
Trying to do something. I think he's just trying to stir it up. I mean,
yeah.
What are you going to do now? I think this kind of fell apart a lot faster than I was thinking. I don't know if, a lot of people, I think, had some false hope after the way they played last month.
We were those people.
Yeah, as we should be, as any good Cubs fan should be. When the team's rolling, you got to support them.
And I do think last episode you gave us a preview of the schedule, and you're like, they got the Brewers, they got the Reds, Phillies. That should be an easy kind of we'll get back on track thing.
And they got the Cardinals coming up. But yeah, if you look at the Reds, I think they won 7 out of their last 10.
Yeah,
you got the Cardinals, I think, won 6 or 7 out of their last 10 as well. So those teams are coming on, and the Cubs are, at the same time, just completely falling. This is a free fall at this point when you're not winning any games.
Yeah.
So, we talked about before, are they going to be buyers or sellers? Obviously, I think they're squarely in the selling camp now. Unless the rest of
I
this
just looked at the score to this game right now. 4-0 in the first. Phillies are up.
Jesus.
Sorry. I just had to check out the score and saw that.
Yeah.
I think it's like you're saying, sell.
Yeah. I think it would take a miracle for them to get back in this by the time that trade offers are coming in. So I think you're selling at this point, and I think you're looking at guys like obviously Craig Kimbrell. It's going to be a huge name to watch. Chris Bryant's going to be a huge name to watch. I think Chafin's going to be a huge name to watch. I think a lot of people will be looking for bullpen arms, and he's been pitching well. He's just, I don't know. He's got some swag about him too that I think, maybe you want that kind of guy in your locker room when you're in the playoffs. Yeah. So I think he's going to be interesting because those guys are all playing. I mean, Bryant's hitting like 271, something like that, which is good enough to be on a contender. And Kimbrell obviously is pitching lights out. It's just, I think, the best he's ever been pitching at this point in the year. And Chafin is having a hell of a year. So I think those 3 are the big names for me to watch. I'd be surprised, I think, if we got rid of Javi or Rizzo, because I don't know that we can get as big of a return for those guys. And I kind of think that maybe they're in the long-term plans, but I wouldn't rule it out either. I just think those 3 are going to be the names to watch. What about you?
Yeah, I was just looking around like the Twitter sphere and saw like Buster Only came out and a couple other of the MLB writers saying that Craig Kimbrell is like the most sought after trade piece right now in the whole market, which I guess is like, if you're looking for like a silver lining here with this 10-game losing streak, knowing that we probably should be sellers now, and then having one of the top pieces that people want, hopefully we can get something back from that. Someone you didn't name that just kind of is coming into my head right now, who really, in my mind, is a really good player, and it's just some things just aren't working here, and maybe a change of scenery. And I think if we want to get a few prospects in return, I think Ian Happ might be someone you might see being moved.
That was going to be my guess as to what we were thinking of there. Yeah.
Player, play multiple positions, play up and down the lineup in the batting order as well. Just something about Chicago right now, it hasn't been clicking. He's shown really good signs, and maybe it's a change of scenery that we can maybe even package him up with Kimbrell. That's a huge package, and we would be looking for a great top of the line return there with, you want to see like a top 50 prospect or something, top 100 prospect there.
I think so. Yeah. I think you want to get you try and get a big name, like when the White Sox went all in on their rebuild and they got rid of Chris Sale, and they got Moncada back, they got Kopech back.
Yep.
They got Giolito when they were starting to sell off pieces. I don't remember if Giolito, I think he was in the Adam Eaton trade, I believe. But in any case, when you're starting to sell off pieces and there's teams that are looking for players to make a postseason run, you got to be looking at those top tier prospects. And if you can get those guys, you got to go get them. I don't care if you package all three of these guys and you get one guy that you're kind of betting on, because I think if we try to do what we did again with the Darvish trade and we get like 4, 9th, 11th,
Teenagers.
13th, and 15th,
Yeah.
you're really betting on your player development, which I don't know that you can say that it's outstanding at this point. I mean, we had some great prospects when the Cubs, eventually won the World Series. Prior to that, when we got Baez coming up, when we got Bryant coming up, I mean, Bryant was a top 2 pick. Baez was a top 10 pick. These are guys that we knew from the start that were going to be great. I think when you're taking guys that are younger and they aren't blue chip prospects and you're trying to bank on them being guys that you're going to have in your lineup in the future, I think that's tough. So I think if you can, even if you got to package all three of these guys, both of those relievers and Bryant, if you can get like a really, really, really like good stud prospect, I would absolutely do
or
that.
Ian Happ?
KB.
You're
or
putting
Happ.
KB in a trade package. Yeah. I mean, if you're putting KB in a trade package, you need a franchise prospect, franchise altering prospect.
Absolutely. But I did see the only tweet, and he was saying that he thought the Red Sox could be a good fit because he's been there before. And the Red Sox have a few top 100 prospects that would be really interesting. This Jarren Duran guy, we talked about it a little bit in the article, the Cubs article, latest Cubs article. It's on there a little bit about him. And he's probably going to be called up pretty soon. And they got Jeter Downs, who's really highly regarded middle infielder, I believe. And then the other, but he was saying that rival execs or other execs within the MLB are saying, no, I don't think it's going to be the Red Sox. It's probably most likely going to be the Astros or the A's.
Yeah.
And so when you look at those two teams, they don't have the greatest of farm systems. So that makes me kind of nervous. The A's do have one top 100 prospect. It's a catcher. He's at the A level. So those kind of guys, I mean, next year he could be, he's ranked number 82 out of 100. He could be completely off the list next year. That would not surprise me at all. He's only 19. It says his ETA is 2024. So we wouldn't have any idea what this guy's going to be if you can even get him in a package. And then the Astros only have one as well, and it's Forrest Whitley, who's a pitcher in AAA. He's 23. I think he's been up before. 6'7", huge guy. I know he throws really hard, like 100 miles an hour type of player. Just had some control issues, I believe, and that's why he hasn't been up yet because he is 23 already. He's ranked 64 out of 100. I wouldn't mind getting a pitcher in the system. And getting it, maybe a change of scenery kind of guy like that. That's still young.
Yeah.
But I mean, those two teams, when you say those two, I'm just like nervous because if you're not getting either of those two guys that are in the top 100, what are you really getting? Neither of those guys, top 50 players even. And I'd be more interested in packaging a couple of the guys we got to get a top 50 player, at least somebody that we can count on, because Ed Howard, it sounds like, is not doing that well in the minors.
Yeah, I did see he had like his first 3 or 4 hit game the other day too. It just takes time maybe, but yeah. And he's like, what, second year? So yeah. I think he's the Cubs like 5th or 6th prospect on their list right now. They got him ranked 5th from MLB.com. But as you're kind of just talking, I was just thinking as well, like this is Jed Hoyer's kind of first year at the deadline. We're used to having, I feel like, the best GM in Theo Epstein when it came to these times to make the deals, to try to get an edge on other franchises, to swindle people, let me ask you this, do you have faith that the current position being sellers, do you think Jed Hoyer is capable or will get the haul that Cubs fans are expecting if they go into rebuild?
So that's an interesting question because, like you said, when we had Theo, I was 100% whatever Theo thinks is the best.
Right.
This guy won a World Series for the Red Sox and won a World Series for the Cubs.
Yeah.
He's done it
Yeah.
over and over
It's an
again.
insane
You
track
can't build a
record.
better resume than this guy
Yeah.
has. With that being said, Jed has been around him longer probably than anybody else. And so if anybody's seen him do this kind of work at the deadline, it's Jed. So you got to have faith in Jed because of that. It's like the Darvish trade that makes me a little bit nervous because I mean, again, it's really early. We don't really know what we got there yet.
Yeah.
So you can't even really knock him for that. It just didn't feel like we got as big of a haul as we probably could have got for somebody who I think you were saying in the like before the show how good the Padres have been when
Yeah.
Darvish has started.
4.
13 and 4. He's just an absolute stud. And, it's still sad to see him go. But I do have faith in Jed. I think he's going to make the right decision at the right time. I'm just hoping, fingers crossed, Kimbrel doesn't get hurt or something before this deadline and we don't get anything. So I think there's going to be a time where he's going to have to pull the trigger on something. And I think he's going to get as much as he can.
I mean, you'd hope so. It's a tough look with the offseason that he had as a GM. Like you just mentioned, the Darvish trade, all-star, 13 and 4 in his starts for the team. Did not extend or reach out to Schwarber, giving him a qualifying offer, all-star. So I mean, those two like judgment calls that he made, those two guys had all-star types years so far in the first half, which gives you a little bit of precaution thinking about what is this guy? Is he evaluating the talent correctly? Is he able to be building this franchise and replenishing the farm system? So it makes me worry a little bit with that being kind of the way he started this year and the way that those players have excelled on different rosters. It also makes me wonder what's going on internally with this kind of almost feeling of like this roster, this team, or the culture in this clubhouse seems very stale. It seemed fresh at the beginning of this year. Not the beginning. It seemed fresh when we went on that win streak, when we were kind of the good vibes, the bullpen was rolling. It seemed like we had found something. But right now, I think we might have gotten too comfortable. We're kind of maybe reverting to some of those habits to where it does feel like stale, complacent. We don't have an edge. We're not like a bulldog. We're not ready to fight. We're kind of just going through, getting paid, playing baseball. So I we'll see. I think we'll see minimal movement is what I think. I don't think we're going to see any crazy trades. By minimal, I think, yes, we'll probably see a Kimbrel go. But as for position players, I think they're so strapped with some of the contracts that they have that it's going to be hard for them to move some position players.
Yeah. And another thing I'll say on Kimbrel is that he's not super expensive. But he, somebody like the Astros who are already up against it with the luxury tax, I think he would put them over. So you could see the Cubs having to throw some cash even in that deal with him, which we know how cash strapped the Cubs keep saying that they are. That would kind of upset me as well. But if you're getting a big return, then that's, of course, that's fine. And Kimbrel, of course, has the team option for next year. So that might be appealing to teams as well.
Right.
You get him for the rest of this year, but also you get him for next year. Whereas somebody like Chris Bryant, you just get for, the next few months here, which I've seen for Bryant. I've seen the Mets as the only possible team. I've seen, of course, that's just Twitter. A lot of people speculating on Twitter, but nothing from anybody like Buster Olney, big names like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not a good place to be where we're at right now, going into the All-Star break. Coming up here, not where you want to be as a franchise. Kind of season altering 10-game losing streak we just had, to where now it's forcing people to make decisions, and we're just gonna have to wait and see what happens. Movement will happen. It sucks that we're not competing anymore. We're losing to our division rivals. We're falling under 500 for the first time since the beginning of the year, when we started just brutally. So right now we're currently 42 and 43, and
the White Sox are in first place.
Exactly. Like if you're looking at like a chart here, we kind of started off on the same ascension at White Sox, Cubs, both in first. It was nice to like talk shit, like, yeah, you guys, you're supposed to be so much better, blah, blah, blah. And literally they have kept going and ascending. And we are, like you said earlier, free
Even with
falling. We
yeah,
are free falling.
absolutely free falling. Even with some injuries for them too. Yasmani Grandal got hurt
Yeah.
yesterday or today.
Yeah. No Robert.
No Robert, no Eloy. I think he's still
Yeah.
out.
Jimenez. Yeah. He's
He
out.
should be coming back supposedly soon, but yeah, they're still without a lot of key guys.
Yeah.
So Madrigal. Yeah, I mean,
So it's tough. I mean, and now for me, Cub seasons are hard to watch. I'm still going to watch, still going to pay attention, but we have the NBA finals that is kind of saving me, distracting me, if you will, from our current team, the Chicago Cubs.
basketball
And
junkie.
I am a basketball junkie, you know that. And I welcome this matchup. I bet you the broader audience does not. If you're a casual NBA fan, you look at it and you're like the Bucks and the Suns, like what the hell happened this year? Where are all the elite players at? These aren't the two best teams. It's an interesting matchup. Giannis, I just saw he was warming up, testing out the knee right before this game. We're recording this Tuesday. Game 1 is tonight. So we'll see if he plays. I doubt he plays game 1. I think they'll play it on the safe side, but it does look like he's going to play this series, which is about the best news possible from
For
what we
everybody.
saw. Yeah, for everyone. Yeah, exactly. For everybody, right? You want
Yeah.
it to be as fair as possible for this. But who do you got? Who's your choice? What are your thoughts about the NBA finals?
I'm taking the Suns.
Okay.
I do want to watch some of these games. Whereas, earlier on in these playoffs, it was a bigger pool of teams. So I think I was less interested more at the beginning. And now that it's whittled down and I don't have to watch LeBron, don't get me wrong, it's exciting to watch people like LeBron and Durant in the finals, but it's also cool to see like some of these other guys like Chris Paul and Devin Booker, I think is very
Mhm.
good. It's fun to watch them play on a big stage too. Um, so I will probably be tuning in for a few of these games here, which is more than I would have, I think, if it was, let's say, the Nets against the Lakers.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm not the average fan. I think a lot of people tune in for the stars like that, but I mean, Giannis is fun to watch. Chris Paul is fun to watch. I think Aiton's fun to watch. I think Booker's fun to watch. I think you can totally pick out some of these guys that are, good enough players that it's going to be an exciting finals.
Yeah.
But I think the Suns are going to win. I think they got a more complete team. That's my pick. What
And your
about you?
favorite player on the Suns is DeAndre Ayton, right?
It's Aiton. Yeah, it's
Yeah, of
definitely
course.
Aiton.
It's of course. As you were kind of going through that too, it's like you're glad it's not the Nets and the Lakers. And I'm thinking of this matchup, and I'm like, man, who's gonna be complaining to the refs? Like, I'm used to the stars complaining, taking an extra minute to question a call, to look like you're about to like cry if you don't get your way. And I'm thinking of the two teams, the Bucks and the Suns, playing each other. I'm like, Devin Booker is pretty stoic. He doesn't show too much emotion. Chris Paul might be the person that's
Yeah,
going to
I
be
was gonna
working the
say
refs the most, but
I could see that.
he's not as bad as like the
No.
Durant's, Hardens, LeBrons. So it's going to be fun to watch. I'm wondering what they're going to be doing, since this is the finals and it's only between two teams back and forth, if they're going to allow the fans to sit behind the benches. I know they've been having like those those tarps over like the seats close to the bench. So I want to see that, what the environment's going to be like. Can't wait to see the enormous finals trophy logo in the center of the court, which is almost like 3/4 of the court. Takes up so much space. It's so unnecessary. And I'm pulling for the Suns too. I think we're both
Are
on
you?
the Suns. I just,
West Coast team?
you can't root for a Wisconsin team either.
That's
Like
true.
you just can't root for a Wisconsin team. As cool as Giannis is and that story, and how crazy that story is for him to come where he came in that, like, D League in Greece, to be plucked out, and then turns out to be this stud, this superstar, and now possibly potentially leading a NBA franchise to a finals championship is just an outrageous story. With that being said, I'm going Suns. I
Yeah.
just like, yeah, I just like them. I like their jerseys better. I don't like rooting for a Wisconsin team. I think it's insane that they
Suns in
qualified for the
4.
bubble. Like, they qualified for the bubble last year. Suns in 4 qualified for the bubble, meaning they were one of the bad teams in the league. Like, the Bulls were close to qualifying. That tells you how bad the Suns were last year. I think the
Mhm.
Suns beat them out by like a game or two. They make the bubble. They went undefeated in the bubble, I believe, and then carry that momentum, sign Chris Paul, and then just to have that kind of turnaround to now be in the finals. is another awesome storyline to follow. So I think it's cool. And, being an avid fan, I think it's really cool to change it up. I think people complain a lot about the NBA where it's like the same two teams or the same two
Mhm.
like superstars, even if they change teams, they're always in the finals. It's always going to be
Exactly.
LeBron and Durant, or it's going to be LeBron and Steph, or, whatever it is. And to have this matchup, maybe it'll give a little diversity to it. Maybe it'll reach a broader audience, bigger fan base. Maybe it'll draw some new fans in.
Yeah, I think it
Um,
changes a lot because
yeah.
everybody's always complaining about parity in the NBA.
Yeah.
So I think when you have something like this happen where it's not any of those teams like we talked about, the Nets or the Lakers, I think it changes a lot of people's minds. And I think that whole argument of, well, it's always the same two teams, like I'm not going to watch. Well, it's not anymore. Are you going to watch now?
Mhm.
Do you really like the NBA or do you not? So
Yeah. Yeah. And I saw Marv Albert had his last game. I think he retired. So he's no longer going to be calling NBA games. The voice, at least for the NBA playoffs for me, Marv Albert. So
Mhm.
that's another thing to note there. But just continuing on basketball as
You
well.
shedding a
Oh,
tear.
yeah, I was thinking about doing his voice, but I would never be able to do Marv Albert justice. But I know he's a big weirdo creep. So we'll just leave it at that. There is a player. This is always like a cool storyline. I feel like it happens a lot more in the NFL, more so than NBA. But there's Torrey Craig. He started the year on Milwaukee, and they cut him for salary space when they got the PJ Tucker trade. And then he was signed by the Suns. So he's going to be on the Suns in the finals, but depending on who, it doesn't matter who wins, he's going to get a ring regardless. So that's a cool story there as
Yeah.
well. To close it out, though, we're looking at the Olympic basketball, keeping in the NBA, Zach LaVine, Chicago Bulls. I can't wait to see some of these like practice videos, the scrimmages. I mean, there's like notorious videos for basketball junkies of like Kyrie versus Kevin Durant or James Harden versus Kevin Durant in like these Olympic practices. So I
Mhm.
want to see if anything comes with Zach, if he's going to be dunking on anyone.
You think he's going to put himself in those situations? You think he's that type of guy that's like going to buddy with everybody and kind of shoot the shit and play after practice like that? Or do you
I
think he's
hope
going to be more
so.
of like a keep to himself kind of dude?
I for the sake of the Bulls and him being a superstar, I hope he, fraternizes with all the other players. He talks about maybe, hey, you should come to Chicago. We got me, Vooch is there now. We got some things going. AK knows his stuff. Like it's a cool place to be. Start showing people his skills, maybe picking up some skills, talking, chirping into some of these players' ears, asking for advice. I mean, Zach's still super young as well. Not super young, but he's still a young player in this league. It's his first time in the Olympics. I think it's been record has shown that the Olympics only benefit players. They usually play and have a better statistical season following the Olympics. So I think it's only good for him to be here. I hope that he does fraternize with the players, that he does have some videos come out, that gains a little confidence. He's able to be on the best team ever, not ever, but the best team in the world right now, right?
Mhm.
USA basketball.
Yeah. Whoa,
And
dude. Dream team.
and
Ever heard
yeah,
of him?
right, yeah, right. And those players, right? Like think about these practices. They got to be nuts. There's the best players in the world
Yeah,
on one team. It's got to be a crazy practice.
for sure. So
But
speaking of best in the world, did you watch the Nathan's hot dog eating contest?
Joey Chestnut,
Did you see it?
I didn't. I only saw images.
Uh,
Yeah, I did not watch it.
so I had the Cubs game on. I had to switch over, but he did it, man. He beat it again. He beat himself again.
He did it.
He did it.
Good
He
for
had
him.
76 hot dogs in 10
So
minutes. That
so
is
patriotic.
absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. So yeah, Joey Chestnut won. The reigning women's champion, Mickey Sudo, she skipped the competition because she's expecting a baby with fellow competitive eater, Nick Wary.
Okay.
So she was out, but Joey Chestnut got to keep his title and he just blew everybody out again. I mean, this guy is absolutely nuts. And just watching him eat those hot dogs and like, I'm like, dude, he's like eating a hot dog in like 3 bites
That's
and
ridiculous.
just throwing them back. And it's disgusting.
Something to behold.
So they put up a like graphic when he was eating to show like what he did last year.
Mhm.
And like last year's competition, obviously with the pandemic, it was very weird. It was like indoors. They had like the glass partitions everywhere. So he's like in a glass box just throwing down hot dogs. But they showed his like pace. And so the first minute, how many hot dogs do you think he ate? And this is from last year, so not this year. But I mean, last year he ate 75. This year he ate 76. I'd imagine it's very close.
Yeah, I don't know. For in a minute,
In a minute, his first minute,
he's around like 20,
12.
12.
So he puts on 12, 11, 9, 8, 6. So he's like very like starts off a little bit hot, kind of tails off a little bit, but he's still putting at least 5, 6 hot dogs down every minute. And
Yeah.
then in the 9th minute, he goes back up from 5 to 6. 10th minute, he's going back to 7. So this guy, it's like, if you think about like a pitcher, when they're throwing, when they're throwing in the early innings, they're pumping 100 miles an hour. And then maybe those few middle innings, the velocity takes down a little bit. But when it's like a playoff game and they know that the team needs them or whatever, they're throwing, 100 miles an hour again in the 6th, 7th inning. And everyone's just like, oh my God, how are they doing this? This is how this guy is every single year, where he just starts off hot, finishes hot, and he comes for his own title. It's the most American thing you've ever seen in your life.
I'm just glad you're comparing.
I hope everyone watched it. I hope the people that listen to this podcast watched it because they heard all these crazy Joey Chestnut statistics. The guy is an absolute, he's a beast.
Is he an athlete? Let me ask you that. Is he an athlete? You're comparing him to a major league pitcher.
He's 100% athlete. Yeah. I mean, there are, all right. I would say he's more of an athlete than like a professional bowler.
Oh, here we go.
And I think that's a very tough thing.
Opening a can of worms.
Professional bowling is a very tough. I'd say it's more of a skill, but it's very tough. I would think competitive eating, I think what you put your body through is a lot more than like billiards or bowling or something like that. So I think he's an athlete. Okay. What do you think? Do you disagree?
Having experienced the sport myself of competitive eating, of course he's an athlete.
Oh yeah,
of course. I would say probably one of the top athletes in the world, to be able to do that with your body. No, I'm kidding.
So good to see him stay on top, right?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. God, that's just so crazy. 78, you said?
76. 78 next year, probably.
Okay. Is there a future bet? Can you bet on that already? Maybe, probably.
You could definitely bet on how many hot dogs he's going to eat for sure before it started. Yeah. If he was going to beat it and all that.
Nice. Last thing I got before we go is Olympics are coming up. So I am getting into the mood. I love the Olympics. I was watching some of the qualifiers, watching gymnastics, and now I'm of course focusing over into the men's basketball, and they're having some preliminary tournaments like the Euros are figuring out what countries are coming. They're doing a tournament to figure that out. And so on. Same with North America, South America, all around the world. Cool storyline. Slovenia, Luka Doncic is having that team go to the Olympics for the first time. I believe they beat out Lithuania with Domantas Sabonis in order to get there. Tomas Satoransky of the Chicago Bulls has led the Czech Republic to the Olympics. He had a last-second shot to defeat Canada, who is not going to the Olympics, which is a huge disappointment if you're Canadian, because that roster had the second most NBA players on it. They had Wiggins, Lou Dort, to name a few, and they did not qualify. And Canadians are kind of trying to figure out what the hell is going on. They should be a major player in the tournament.
That's kind of crazy because I'm looking at the field here and I'm seeing like Japan is in it.
Yeah.
And their best players are like Rui Hachimura.
Yep.
It's like their best player.
Yeah.
And you're telling me that the Canadian team didn't make it?
It has to do with a little bit of like their qualifying route and the region that they're coming in. But yeah, I mean, their field of play, they didn't make it out of that tournament. So I love the Olympic basketball. It's a different style of basketball. It's also crazy to see how good NBA players are, even if they're on the bench. Like Germany, I believe Mo Wagner, who played at Michigan, absolutely tore it up the other day. And
28 points. Yeah.
He gets like role player bench minutes in the NBA, and like his highlights are insane. So it just goes to show you just like how crazy the NBA is and how good every single person on an NBA roster is. And I'm just going to be intrigued and interested to watch all of these other players and countries represent and play basketball. on the world stage. It's something I really am looking forward to, and hopefully Zach gets some meaningful minutes and has some highlights that we can look forward to.
Yeah, and I didn't see this too when you were talking about Canada losing. Do you see how they got sent home or why they got sent home?
It was Tomas Sadaransky.
Yeah,
I brought it up.
Satoransky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy,
crazy.
too. He like banked it off there. He won
Banked
MVP
the game
of that,
winner in
that
overtime.
round. Yeah.
Insane.
I think Nick Nurse is coaching that team too, the Raptors coach. So
who's going to give the US a shot? Anybody?
No.
Yeah.
I don't know who would give the US. And I think like Argentina usually plays pretty well. Spain is always a really good team.
Wasn't Argentina only good when they had Ginobili?
They had Ginobili and like Scola, but I think they're usually pretty. There's
Facundo Campazzo is their best player now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, Slovenia is going to be fun to watch. Like that team's playing up to Luka's level.
Yeah.
And he's basically it's like putting him on his back. They're going to be fun to watch, but unless they pulled a redeem team type of shtick, the USA, when they lost to, I believe it was Spain or Argentina in those like 2008 Olympics or something. I don't see them
losing.
I don't see anyone really competing with them.
We'll see. This team is stacked.
We'll see.
Have we gone through the whole roster? Durant, Lillard, Booker, Jason Tatum, Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, Zach LaVine, Bam Adebayo, Draymond Green, Jeremy Grant, Bradley Beal, and Kevin Love. I mean, that is just a loaded roster.
It's a loaded roster, and we got a Chicago Bull on it, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's like the first time in a long time. Pretty cool.
Very cool.
Pretty cool. All right, man. Anything else?
Yeah, the last thing I got here is we are the commissioners, I guess you would say, of a new fantasy football league that we're starting here. It's the Fantasy Football League of Podcasts, the Flop League. That's what we're calling it, the Flop League. So it's us. It's a 14-team fantasy football league with all other podcasts that we follow. They follow us on Twitter, kind of thing. So it's kind of the battle of the podcast. See who can put together the best fantasy football team and bring home the title. No money on the line. This is strictly for bragging rights.
That's right.
But it will be cool to kind of touch on what podcast we're playing in a given week, so we can kind of give our listeners a shout out to some of these other podcasts and let them know what they're about as well. There's some cool podcasts in here, such as Two Pointers podcast, the Liddy Lads podcast, Bears Nation podcast, Sports Podium podcast. We'll talk about some more of these as the season rolls along. But I think it's cool. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, keep a lookout for it. We'll do, hopefully, if everyone's schedules link up, a Zoom draft, so we'll be able to have everybody together. We'll put that on our YouTube channel. So we'll be putting some content out for that.
For sure. All right, man. It's been fun. Get yourself a beer when you finally get off that dry campus.
All right. Episode 20. Thanks for listening.
It's in the books. Peace.